MCADE. Uh, it's about size.
Let's start from the beginning. My recollection is it all started at Royal Sounds, but I'm sure your personal history goes back farther than that. So wherever you'd like to start from.
Well, it did start at Royal Sounds. That's where I first started working with my father when I was about 11 years old in his record store. And just, messing with the stereo and stuff like that. And back then, just like now, but, back then they had the bass knob on the stereo system and the treble. And, working in the with the summers, in the summers with him, it was just something I was, you know, digging was that bass knob. So I used to always try and I'd crank it as high as I could get it, but you know, I still could never get enough. And that's where it started at for me, but as far as music started, my mother had a store um, in Miami, and we had a jukebox in there, so we could put coins in, and all we had to do was color them. And the guy would, when he came to get his money, he would give us back our coins that were colored, with a marker, what have you. And what that did, I didn't realize at the time, is listening to nothing but the hits, all the time. That just trained me, you know, and knowing good music, hot music, at least what the people were into and what they wanted. And I was younger then, I had been probably, 9, back then when I was doing that, and that was like an everyday thing, for a couple years. So then, like I said, when I got to my father and I started working with him, um, when I was 11, he was real surprised because I picked up the music so quick, and you know, um, it just it was just something groomed in me at that point, and that's where it started at. And then I went and like I said, digging the bass, always wanting more and more, but never could get it. And I came back, because I was going back and forth because my mother and father weren't together, and so I would go back to my mother, and then when I came back, I think next summer or something like that, my father, one day we just end up going into the studio, one late night, what have you, and MC Chief and Sexy Lady were doing a record, and we went into the studio, and I was there, some 12-year-old kid, just in the studio, just watching them. Never been in a studio before, and I'm just checking it out. So Sexy Lady says, you know, Adrian, what you think of this track? What you think of the track? And you know, I heard it, and I was like, well, if it was me, I'd do the beat like this, and I had different ideas. And she said, well, so she went and got up next to my father, and she was like, well, I want to, let's try it how he's saying. So my father was like, well, he told Frank Canillas was the engineer, and he told Frank, and he said, well, Frank, what about what he's saying? So Frank was like, oh, that kid don't know what he's talking about. So she was like, well, I want to try how he's saying, she was Sexy Lady. So my father, he was like, yeah, well, he thinking, I don't know what he was thinking with, but he was like, okay, let's try it like this. We could just hold that track and do another track. So we went ahead, and so Frank, he placated me. He was like, okay, what do you want to do? So start from scratch. So he was like, okay, what the beat gonna go like? So I just did a beat, hand on the desk, and we did it just like that. Like, how you want the hi hats? Oh, yeah. Okay, well, how you want this here? What else you hearing? And I'm hearing bells and melodies, and so I'm telling him this stuff. And like I said, he's placating me because he figured like, okay, when this gets done, you'll see this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. Unbeknownst to me and everybody else, that I did know what I was talking about, because once we got through with doing the track verbatim, it sounded good. And the other track we never heard again. And put the record out, it was a hit. I left, went back home, back to my mom. Uh, and I think everybody caught amnesia at that point. They forgot what happened, really what happened in the studio. So my father, they were still, him and Frank, and, they were still going in the studio, doing music and different, songs and stuff like that, because now they had Beefbox, and Beefbox was, just blew off the charts. It was hot. And then I guess when I came back, the next time I came back, like a year or so later, uh, it was like all the records they did basically had flopped. They, nothing was popping. And I guess, like I said, that's why I said they must be caught amnesia, because nobody, not even me, really realized what happened at that time. And my father, I was, back in the record store, and, messing with the turntables, doing some music, what have you, playing some music. And he said, and I guess it dawned on him, and he said, why don't you make a record? And I was like, because I didn't have any inspiration to make a record. That was never my desire, anything like that. I just never had it.